Hey guys, today we are diving into a 12-team, 3-receiver, 1-flex mock draft. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, on X, and let's get ready to mock it up.
All right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Frankie, I am going to mock you like a hurricane. Let's go mock, baby.
Mock draft, John. And before we even dive in, I just want to do a little bit of this to show some plumage. Give some homage to the plume folks like Anthony Sistone, Ben Birch, and the entire squad over there. If you guys are looking to do some psychedelic rock and just kind of vibe out a little bit while you're doing a mock draft, I highly recommend checking them out. So John, I had to shout them out a little bit.
Shout out to Plume. Shout out to you, Sistone. Love you, brother. All right, guys, let's get into the mock draft today. We're getting into 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a flex, and a tight end. We're not going to bore you with kicker and defense. All right, let's kick things off here. Frankie is going to be drafting from the 3 spot. I am going to be drafting from the 9 spot. Let's kick things off and get it rocking here, man. All right, so right off the bat, we've got CMC at number 1 and CeeDee Lamb. I think that's going to go pretty much how it goes in most drafts here. Frankie, you're at the number 3 spot. Who are you looking at?
Don't overthink it. Lock in Tyreek Hill. Boom, baby.
Agreed. And then we see Jahmyr Chase go, which is pretty natural. Breece Hall going over Justin Jefferson there at 5. Very interesting. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 7 and Bijan at 8. Okay, so let's see what that leaves me with here. All right, so that leaves me running back-wise. I've got Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley. Could consider Jahmyr Gibbs or Jonathan Taylor here. Receivers, A.J. Brown. And it's a teardrop for me. Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson. I think this move right here is pretty easy for me. It's a teardrop. I've got pretty much Amon-Ra St. Brown and A.J. Brown in a tier of their own, which means I will be taking A.J. Brown here at the number 9 spot. All right, so at 10, we do have Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua, Saquon at the turn. That's as early as I've seen Saquon there. Garrett Wilson, Kyren Williams, Jonathan Taylor, and I'm back on the clock here. Receivers, we've got that dangerous Marvin Harrison Jr. sitting there, along with Drake London, Davante Adams. Receivers, I'd be looking at either Marvin Harrison Jr. or Davante Adams in this spot. Running backs, Travis Etienne, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, a couple of guys we've talked about recently on some of our episodes. Well, in this spot, what I'm really looking at, I could either double up with the upside of receiver here to match up with A.J. Brown, or I can look at getting a workhorse running back. Those are rare. There's a couple on here, Travis Etienne, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, all workhorse running backs. You know, I'm going to go with the upside of the rookie receiver here and double tap receiver with an A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr. special. See if I can put together some running backs a little bit later. All right, then we had Josh Allen, a little early for a quarterback for me there. Travis Etienne, Chris Olave, Drake London, Devon Achane. Frankie, who are you going to pair up with Tyreek the Freak?
Easy peasy, John. This one just fell into my lap at 3. You already know. Guys, for those that are listening, viewing, watching, right now from a receiver perspective, I can go Davante Adams, Brandon Ayuk, Nico Collins, running back, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Pacheco. Easy. It's Davante. Don't even think about it. Lock him in. Pair him with that of Tyreek Hill. That's beautiful.
Anybody that's watched any of our episodes knew exactly who you were going to be taking there, man. Yeah. Your love from Davante Adams is legendary.
Is real.
Sure.
I love him.
It's real. All right, Tyreek Hill and Davante Adams. That's a hell of a start, man. All right, then we had Brandon Ayuk, King Henry, Sam Laporta, Nico Collins, and then Frankie, you're back on the clock.
Guys, so just to remember that, or just to remind you, this is a 3 receiver league. So I personally am not even going to look at running back. I love loading up in receivers in 3 receiver league. But just to give you insight as to who you could choose at running back, right? I do have that of Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams. So to layer that in, I could go Josh Jacobs, Sean. That's actually super interesting, and especially in a 3 QB, just because of the workhorse nature, Isaiah Pacheco, so on and so forth. But John, again, there's just too much value in these receivers right now that I'm seeing. I can go Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, Stephon Diggs. It's Mike Evans. Again, I talked about it in multiple mock drafts. Anytime I can get him as my receiver 3, I'm salivating because of the floor he provides. So with that being said, I'm locking in Mike Evans.
All right. Then Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, DJ Moore, Josh Jacobs, Deebo Samuel, and I am on the clock. I've got A.J. Brown and Marvin Harrison Jr. Man, it would have been nice if Josh Jacobs would have fell to me right there. I would have really scooped that up. All right, running backs, we're looking at Rachaad White, James Cook, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Kamara. Receivers, Jalen Waddle, Stephon Diggs, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman. Very interesting options here. If I wanted to peek at quarterback, we got Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes up here. Could look at doing a stack, which is really interesting, especially in a 3 receiver league. I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to take Jalen Hurts here. I normally don't take quarterbacks this early, but I'm going to do it because I want to see putting together a stack in a 3 receiver league like this with a flex. I'm going to see what I can do with running backs. So let's go with Jalen Hurts here. Put up the stack. All right, then Jalen Waddle, Stephon Diggs, Rachaad White. There's a couple quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, DK Metcalf, and I am back on the clock. Running back is going to be difficult for me, so let's take a look. And the guy I was hoping did fall to me. I can still get a nice little workhorse running back. If you're going to take a strategy like this, I think this is the guy to take to help solidify your running back room when you have none. It's Joe Mixon from the Houston Texans. We talked about him. Take a look at the episode. Poster right here. New faces, new places, running backs in the AFC. I love Joe Mixon this year. Great opportunity. All right, then Michael Pittman Jr., James Cook, Malik Neighbors, Cooper Kupp, and Zay Flowers. Frankie, you got 3 beautiful receivers on here. Where are you going now?
Yeah, this is interesting, John. And I'm looking at that team. What is it? Team 7 went 3 running backs in a row, just really screwing the rest of us who didn't take a running back just yet. And then I also am looking at Team 2 behind me, John, who they also have 3 receivers. I have 3 receivers. So this is going to be an interesting battle between the two of us to see how this unfolds. So for those listening, right, that isn't able to really view, I on my team, I have Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams, Mike Evans. It's round 4 going back down the snake here. So I'm looking at from a running back perspective, I could go Kenneth Walker, who's kind of climbing up my board a tad. Could go Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift. I'm also kind of peeking once more at receiver just to see what else is out there. I got Devonta Smith, Tank Dell, T. Higgins, Pickens, right? There's nothing there that's really screaming, this is the guy. So for me, John, I am going to actually look to that of the running back situation. And, there's one guy here that I really, really do like. And yeah, people might say I'm reaching for him, but I want a little piece of the pie, and I want that of Aaron Jones. I really like Aaron Jones in this Vikings offense. I think that he can do dirty things with that of Sam Darnold being the quarterback. They're going to rely on him quite a bit. So that is why I'm locking in that of Aaron Jones.
All right. Wow. There is going to be a running back freakout very soon because that team 2 just took 4 receivers and a tight end, 0 running backs.
0 RB.
Right in front of you. So 0 RB strategy right in front of you there, buddy. Okay, we had Devonta Smith, Kenneth Walker, CJ Stroud, and Trey McBride taken. Frank, you're on the clock.
So easy, guys. This is playing into exactly what I was hoping it would do. So from the perspective, right, I got Aaron Jones as my RB1, but not feeling totally warm and cozy with that. So I want to hit running back once more. Guys, pretty easy here. It's Alvin Kamara. I'm going to layer in Alvin Kamara with that of Aaron Jones. And what's funny, John, is actually this was a guy that we were actually talking about. Who would you rather draft between Alvin Kamara, and this was a couple last week, but Alvin Kamara versus Aaron Jones? Shit, if you got the ability to get them both, snag them both. And that's what I'm looking at for my RB1 and 2.
It'll be nice from a half-point PPR perspective for sure. All right, then George Pickens, Mark Andrews, Anthony Richardson, Dalton Kincaid, George Kittle. Big tight end run there in the
Big.
5th round. Really interesting. All right, let's see what I'm looking at here. I've got A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jalen Hurts as the quarterback, and Joe Mixon at running back. If I'm looking at receivers, you've got Tank Dell, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. Interesting options here. Again, it's a 3-receiver and a flex league, so you got to keep that in mind. I know how bad everyone's going to freak out with running back, so I may look at taking my RB2 here, which I am going to. I'm going to take James Conner here. There's a big drop off after James Conner with DeAndre Swift, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, guys that are either sharing the backfield or a new face in a new place. James Conner, as long as we know he's not going to play a full season, but I may look at handcuffing him, which I don't normally do, but I do love me some Trey Benson. But I do think he's going to have so much opportunity on an improved and healthy Cardinals offense. So I'm going to take some of the volume early in the season with James Conner. All right. T. Higgins, Tank Dell, Amari Cooper, David Montgomery, Kyle Pitts, and Joe Burrow. I am back on the clock. 3 receivers and a flex, so I'm going to be looking at receiver here. Really interesting options. Keenan Allen. We've got Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin, Roman Dunze. You know what? I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to take a shot on Keenan Allen here, man.
Yeah, love that.
Guy that I haven't talked about a whole lot, guy that I haven't really drafted a whole lot, but as your 3rd receiver, this is where I'd like to see the opportunity for Keenan Allen. All right, then we had Ramondre Stevenson, Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Swift, Christian Kirk, and Jordan Addison. Frankie, you're on the clock.
Yeah, John. So this is really interesting, guys. So with my team right now, I have Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams, Mike Evans, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara. It's now the 6th round, the back of the 6th round. So it's pretty open. Again, with a 3-receiver, 1 flex, I want to start attacking that flex a little bit harder. But this is where it gets difficult, right? Because Roma Dunze's there. You have Jayden Reed, Xavier Worthy, Godwin, Ridley. There's still a lot of good stuff. And then from a tight end, there's Evan Ingrams, Brock Bowers, David Njoku. I think I can wait a little bit there. Same thing with quarterback. Quarterback's a little bit tough right now at the back half of the 6th because I could go Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams. I'm going to wait there. I got a little something cooking up. So I'm actually going to go back to the receiver room, and I want to start stacking some receivers knowing this is a 3-receiver, 1 flex. So this is going to be interesting, but there's definitely a guy that I'm looking at being able to take a little bit of a risk on, and it's going to be Jayden Reed. I like the upside that he could be a cheap receiver 1 on the team of the Green Bay Packers, and then be able to come back, John, and potentially be able to get an additional receiver just to bolster that a bit more. I really like where this is heading.
All right, then Kyler Murray, Roma Dunze, Rashee Rice, and Tony Pollard. And let's see you double tap that receiver, Frank.
I'm going to go right back, and I'm going to grab a guy here, John, that's pretty. This is a guy that I'm looking at. It's Calvin Ridley. I'm drafting Calvin Ridley. I'm not going to think twice about it as my receiver 5. Receiver 5. Love that.
Yeah, that's really, really strong. Jahmyr White, Xavier Worthy, Chris Godwin, Jordan Love, Raheem Mostert, and I am back on the clock here. I've got 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and a quarterback. So I'm looking at best available tight end. Let's see. Evan Ingram, Brock Bowers, David Njoku, Turd Ferguson. I like all of those guys, so I'll continue to wait and grab one of the last of them. Receivers, Hollywood Brown, Ladd McConkey, Deontay Johnson. Very interesting. Wouldn't mind bolstering my running back room here as well. Couple of nice options there. We've got Najee Harris, Jonathan Brooks, Nick Chubb.
You fucking smiling over there. You sack
Zach
shit.
Moss. So, there's a lot of nice options here. So I don't know. I'm going to take a home run shot. We talked about it on our last episode we did, New Faces, New Places. And because it's a 3-receiver and a flex, I've got 3 receivers. So I'm going to be drafting a few guys that I'm going to be playing in a flex here. But it is going to be Hollywood Brown. I'm going to take a shot on this and see what I can do. All right, after Hollywood Brown, we had Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, Evan Ingram, JSN, Ladd McConkey, and Nick Chubb right in front of me. Actually, I was thinking about it.
Yep.
I was thinking about the Nick Chubb option there. This is a guy, I want to bolster my running back room. This is a workhorse back. We talked about him on New Faces, New Places. Zach Moss for the Cincinnati Bengals. I've got Joe Mixon, and I'm going to take Zach Moss, the guy that was replacing him, just to give me some really good depth, a guy that I know I can play each and every week if I need to. All right, then Keon Coleman, DeAndre Hopkins, Jonathan Brooks, Dak Prescott, Caleb Williams, and Frankie, you're on the clock.
Yeah, John, this is great because I'm totally looking at the running back room. I went crazy on receivers, knowing it's a 3-receiver league in a PPR style or half PPR. I love this. So I have Tyreek Hill, Davante Adams, Mike Evans, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, Jayden Reed, Calvin Ridley. I want to bolster that running back room a little bit more. John, there's certainly a guy here that I'm staring at that is definitely going to be on my team, and that is Austin Eckler. Locking him in as a higher upside RB3, I think that there's a lot of value to this.
All right, then Javonte Williams, Brian Thomas Jr., Deontay Johnson, and Christian Watson. Frankie, you're on the clock here.
Yeah, so John, I'm not really willing to go another round at this point without a quarterback. And the reason being is because I'm nervous that this quarterback won't be on the board for the strategy that I'm looking to do. The strategy is I want to stack, and I want a stack that's going to be a top tier stack. So when I'm looking at quarterbacks, I could go Brock Purdy, Goff, Daniels. None of those guys are part of the stack. It's actually Tua. So guys, this is an interesting thing because I'm going to reach a little bit for Tua, knowing that I can double that up from a stack perspective with that of Tyreek Hill. If I did not have Tyreek Hill, John, I would not be reaching for that of Tua. But since I do, I want to make sure I lock that in, get those two in tandem, and then that way I can double dip on Sundays when both those guys are playing.
That's a really great call, man. The Tua Tyreek stack is no joke.
Yeah.
When you're looking at your opponent with Tua and Tyreek, you're like, holy shit, this could be 50, 60 points between the two of them. It's nuts. All right, Brock Bowers, David Njoku, Devin Singletary, Turd Ferguson, Trey Benson, and then I'm on the clock. Yeah, that's a handful of guys that I talked about earlier that I was targeting, and I may have missed the boat on a few of them right there. All right, receivers, I'm looking at Jameson Williams, Cortland Sutton, Romeo Doubs. Receivers are really dropping off here. As far as tight ends go, I missed the tier that I was looking at before. Next tier down, we've got Dallas Goedert, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Pat Freiermuth. Again, I see all those guys very similarly, so probably shouldn't wait too long like I did last time, but I'm not going to jump on that just quite yet. I'm going to take a guy here that will make me feel a little better about James Conner early in the season because God knows James Conner makes it out after a couple of games even. I'm going to go with Jerome Ford, just a guy that I know the first few weeks of the season at least that I'll be able to play and start on a run-heavy offense, and maybe I can make a little trade for him if James Conner's playing well to the Nick Chubb owner who is right behind me there. All right, then Brock Purdy, Tajay Spears, Brian Robinson, Gus Edwards, Dallas Goedert, Jameson Williams, and I'm back on the clock. Need to look at receiver here. Not quite enough depth. I've got 4 receivers, but we're starting all 4 of those right now. So I need to hammer a couple of receivers out here. I see a guy we just talked about on the episode this week. Volume. I think he's going to get the targets. I think he has the opportunity potentially to be the number 1 receiver for the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football. I'm going to go Curtis Samuel here. I'm going to chase some targets, man. I think he's going to be a target monster this year. All right, then Jayden Daniels, Blake Corum, TJ Hawkinson, Zeke, Romeo Doubs, and Frankie. You are at the tail end of the 10th round here. Who are you going with?
Yeah, John, I definitely want to go back to running back here. I have 3 solid running backs, 2 very good, 1 that's interesting. I want to continue to bolster this with the receivers that I have. Obviously, I love my quarterback because of the stack. So looking at running back, I could do Chase Brown, I could do Hubbard, I could do JK. For me, it's easy, man. I'm going to try to take away your Zach Moss love and effort, and I want a little piece of that Bengals backfield. I'm going to lock in Chase Brown because I am not sold entirely that Zach Moss is the guy.
There's a lot of preseason and a lot of camp to go, and you're absolutely right. It could be a battle. We're going to be watching it. All right, then Jared Goff, Cortland Sutton, Dalton Schultz, Adonai Mitchell, and Frank, you're back on the clock. Round 11 of 13.
John, I'll tell you what, round 11 of 13, I want to start looking at tight ends a tad just to start adding a little bit of something there with me kind of missing the boat on many of the tight end tiers. And what's interesting is with a 3 receiver, 1 flex, we have multiple teams that have drafted backup tight ends or 2 tight ends. So that sucks. So what I'm looking at from a tight end perspective here, John, is Pat Freiermuth. We got Cole Kmet. We got Luke Musgrave, Sanat. I'm going to actually lock in that of Freiermuth. I just think that, within an Arthur Smith offense, we've seen Janu Smith do fairly well. We've seen them try to get the ball somewhat to that of Kyle Pitts. So let's just take a flyer. I'm going to be playing the tight end game anyways.
Yeah, I like that, man. Yeah, a lot of tight ends here. What's up with all these tight ends?
What is that?
My God. Come on, baby. Jesus. What is this, the YMCA? Way too many tight ends here. All right, after you took Freiermuth, we had Josh Herbert, Leggett, Tyler Lockett, Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer, and I'm back on the clock. I need a tight end, and I also need a lot more wide receiver depth. Tight ends, Cole Kmet. I've already got a piece of that offense with Keenan Allen right now. Don't know if I want to go too heavy with the Bears offense. Luke Musgrave, very interesting option. Ben Sinnott. Again, everybody has tight ends. Some have multiple. So I'm going to take a chance nobody takes one and just punt on that completely. Receivers, Jacoby Myers, Mike Williams, Rashid Shaheed, Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to look way down the list here and just see if there's anything that sticks out. Actually, there is a guy. I'm going to take a chance here. It's one of my last picks, just in case he does end up being the 1 or the 2 on this team, which it is possible. It's Quentin Johnston. I don't have high expectations for Quentin Johnston this year. Really kind of failed a little bit last year. Yeah. But again, it's one of my last picks. What if that number 1 and number 2 receiver is not determined? That is not hashed out. Right now, it's Josh Palmer and Ladd McConkey working his way in camp, which apparently he's kicking ass. But a very different type of receiver, Quentin Johnston, than Ladd McConkey. So I'm going to take a chance and see if Quentin Johnston can get his shit together this year and gobble up some of those targets that are available. All right, then we got Rashid Shaheed, Zach Charbonnet, Trevor Lawrence, Luke Musgrave, Mike Williams, Chuba Hubbard. I'm back on the clock. 2 picks left. And what I really want to hammer out here is a tight end and wide receiver, just for some additional depth again. Flyer pick receiver. I'm going to get a little crazy here. I'm going to take this is a flyer. I can drop this guy if nothing comes out of it here. But with all the talk, again, this is early August. We have not seen what's going to happen yet with Brandon Ayuk, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be a 49er this year. So I'm going to take the rookie they drafted with Ricky Pearsall.
Love that.
Because I think he's got a lot of opportunity here. You got to dig down the board sometimes, guys. Don't just look at those top 3 guys up on the list. Ricky Pearsall going down a little deeper here could have an amazing opportunity in a Kyle Shanahan offense with Brandon Ayuk gone potentially. So we'll see what happens. All right, then J.K. Dobbins, Jerry Jeudy, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Rico. How do you say that, Frankie? Rico?
Oh, I think I finally learned. It's Dowdle. Dowdle. Dowdling. We're doodling with Dowdle.
Please watch. I can't remember what episode. Running backs in the NFC, I think it was.
And AFC.
Yeah.
But mostly NFC.
Yeah, Frankie just absolutely fucking destroyed that name.
It was amazing.
Rico Dwinwali or something. I don't know. You thought it was like a Hindu holiday or some shit. Yeah. Epic fail. All right, buddy. Who are you going to take here? You got 2 picks left.
Yeah, man, I'm going to go back to the running back room here. I have 4 running backs, but I always can use more depth here. I already took a tight end, so I don't need to be super crazy from that standpoint. But John, there's definitely a couple running backs that I would love to take at this point. Number 1 is who I'm looking at is Kendre Miller. You have Wright, you have Marshawn Lloyd, you have Ty Chandler. But for me, it's going to be Tyler Algier. That's who I'm taking as a handcuff just in case if something, God forbid, were to happen to that of Bijan Robinson. I have that guy who's already proven to be over 1,000-yard rusher.
It's a great call. Really great call. Cole Kmet, Jacoby Myers, Kendre Miller. All right, Frank, last pick. Where are you going here, bud?
Yeah, John, I'm also just going to look at a flyer. So I'm going to be looking at running backs. I'm going to be looking at receivers, right? Because again, we're not drafting kickers and defenses for this. So not a lot happening from the running back. There's a few that I really like as a flyer. Braylon Allen in case Breece Hall, right, gets banged up. Or McCaughlin, who is, kind of backup slash 1B-ish to Javonte Williams. That's kind of interesting. But I could also look at that of the receiver room and try to take a high flyer that maybe people aren't really, keen on, which could be Rashad Bateman. That could be interesting. You could also look at something along the lines of Jalen Polk, who's the rookie for that of New England, who's battling to be a key player. But for me, man, I think that there's too much potential in that of McLaughlin. So I'm going to actually lock in that running back for that of Denver and see what happens, right? Something interesting could come out.
All right, then Gabe Davis, Franklin, Ty Chandler, Josh Downs, Lloyd for Green Bay, and I am on the clock. I need just to lock in. I will clearly be streaming tight ends here. But you know what? If I'm going to be streaming, then I'm going to take a rookie. I'm going to take a rookie tight end out of Washington paired up with Jayden Daniels. I love that. We'll see what this guy can do. Ben Sinnott. All right, then Taysom Hill, Baker Mayfield, and Brandon Cooks rounds out the draft. All right, Frank, let's take a look at your team here and break it down for me. What's your thought process? How do you feel about it? What could you have done differently if you think?
Totally. So guys, again, just to reiterate, I was drafting from pick 3 in a 3-receiver, 1-flex league, PPR or half PPR. For this, I believe it was PPR, but it's not going to change really how I draft from that perspective. So for me, I started off very strong. John, I think if you can get Tyreek Hill at 3, as insane as it sounds, I think it's even a little bit of a value. I really see him locked in as the number 2, even though CeeDee Lamb balled out. To me, it's Tyreek Hill for sure. So then to be able to come back and get Davante Adams, man, I mean, if this actually happens, I will be thrilled. I will literally be thrilled to have Davante as my receiver 2. And then to layer on Mike Evans. That 3 makes it really easy for me to then experiment with other things. So then Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, love the fact I was able to get both of them. It was a little risky. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it, but happy I was. And so, John, where I wish maybe I could have done something a little bit different is maybe at that tight end position, right? Maybe where I went Chase Brown, maybe I could have gotten somebody a little bit different from that side of things. But, overall, man, I really am proud of this draft, the strategy kind of walking in, locking up some of those top tier receivers, going receiver heavy, because one of the things that we've learned, John, over the last few years is that running backs are getting injured at a very, very high rate. And something that you called out a few episodes ago, and keep me honest here, but I believe you said in the first round, right, running backs have a 30% hit rate. Is that accurate in what you were
right.
saying?
Yeah.
30% hit rate. So guys, when you're thinking about that, especially in a larger threshold of a 3-receiver league, go receiver. If you're feeling unconfident in which running back to choose, most of the time you're going to have a better chance of hitting on that receiver than that of a running back. So overall, man, I'm really satisfied with this draft.
Yeah, hey, do you want a couple of pass-catching running backs while you're at it with Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, and Austin Eckler?
Right. Just a few.
Just a couple there. Yeah, really well-built team. I mean, well-constructed team. It's not likely you're going to be looking at Davante Adams.
Too.
If Davante Adams drops almost to the 3rd round, that's criminal. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not going to happen in normal drafts. No way. But yeah, I like what you did there, man. I mean, the only thing you could have done, you could have stepped up to a high-end tight end even over Jayden Reed in that position. That could have made your team pretty interesting as well. But still, Pat Freiermuth as a tight end, I don't think you can go wrong there with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields throwing to him. They both love tight ends.
And from that perspective, you're right. Because actually, John, the more I'm thinking about that, I probably would have liked to have done that, because then I could have gotten Evan Ingram. You could get somebody along the lines of Brock Bowers, David Njoku, which is totally going to bring a better point differential between that and a flex piece that you're going to be rotating in and out anyways. So that's a really good pause learning moment, is that, guys, like when you start looking at some of these receivers, yes, if you solidify your main core and you're going to be able to get a couple other receivers like Calvin Ridley as my 5th, to your point, totally should have gone probably tight end there and not having worried about getting a Jayden Reed and playing on his upside. Go with the more value at what you're going to get from the tight end, and that point differential from what Freiermuth would do in comparison to Evan Ingram versus that of Jayden Reed to that of Calvin Ridley is significantly different. Love that call out.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look at my team here.
Let's see it, Johnny boy.
Let's
you just
see.
want to flash AJ Brown.
I did want to flash AJ Brown.
Part of the boy band.
He is. He's part of Johnny's boy band. That's right. I'm hoping that I can add another guy to my boy band, and that's my second pick with Marvin Harrison Jr.
There you
I have
go.
a good feeling. Yeah, we need a tambourine player in my boy band, man. Let's go. But yeah, I love the start to my draft with AJ Brown and Marvin Harrison Jr. If I can get that in a league, it's gorgeous. Jalen Hurts, I took a chance, and we'll see how I feel about it as I break this team down. But I took a chance with Jalen Hurts in the third round, which I never do. Never take a quarterback in the third round, but wanted to see what I could put together if I did. Grabbing Joe Mixon, a workhorse running back in the fourth, love that. I feel really good about that. Same with James Conner. I needed volume. I can't have guys that are sharing here because I know I'm not going to have a lot of running backs, so I wanted to get guys that are going to have a good load. Same with Zach Moss, Jerome Ford. Just wanted to make sure I had a good stable of guys that I feel good in the first few weeks at least of playing, because I know I'm going to change my team up a lot. I know I'm going to be hitting the waiver wire. There's going to be injuries. So running back is just going to be a revolving door constantly. It is like that with most of my teams anyway. But was able to bring in with Keenan Allen, Hollywood Brown. They're okay. I don't love those picks. I didn't love the options. That's why looking back at this, I'm probably not going to do the quarterback, even though it's a beautiful, sexy stack, maybe the best stack out there. I'm not going to do that in a 12-team, 3-receiver league. There's just too many guys I'm giving up in that third round that I could have had to pair up with A.J. Brown or Marvin Harrison Jr. Because Keenan Allen and Hollywood Brown, they don't get me very excited. I like those guys as depth pieces, but not as starting both of them. Now, I do like the depth that I did pick up with Curtis Samuel. That one I do like because that's a guy that I can plug into that flex and just feel safe about it. I know the targets will be there, production, good offense, great quarterback. I feel good about that. Quentin Johnston, Ricky Pearsall, those guys are really just kind of flyer picks. If they don't do shit for me, I'm hitting the waiver wire. The team's okay. I don't love the team that I drafted. Started off strong, but again, the Jalen Hurts quarterback at 3, it just
so
doesn't
tempting.
make it. It is so tempting to do, and by all means, do it. But you're going to have to play the waiver wire. This team is just not deep enough for me when you've got 3 receivers and a flex starting. If you had maybe 2 receivers and a flex, 1 less starter in the roster, I'd feel better about taking the quarterback there. But these are guys I have to start, Keenan Allen and Hollywood Brown. So don't love that. But all in all, everything else looked pretty good. I love where Joe Mixon fell to me and James Conner. Look at those guys when you're staring in that 4th and 5th round guys. I think those are great running backs to grab if you waited a bit. Same with Zach Moss. Now, again, watch camp. Make sure Chase Brown isn't, creeping up his asshole. But if Zach Moss does have the job and can be a 3-down back, or at least have, 80% of the carries in that backfield, then I think he's a great guy to pick up. What was that, round 8?
Yeah.
Round 8.
Round
to
8.
get a starting running
Middle
back.
of 8.
You gotta love that. Yeah. Exactly.
John, one of the other things too, I love that you called out the Jalen Hurts, especially in a 3-receiver, 12-man league. If this is a 10-man league, I think that even changes a tad, right? Because that's an additional 6 picks roughly-ish that are going to be there. So for me, man, I think that that's really, really good call out, because when you look at where you pick Jalen Hurts at 3rd round, 9th overall, God, when I was just thinking about if you had Stephon Diggs as your receiver 3 there or something like that, and then you were to come back and get Joe Mixon, to your point, I think that changes the dynamic. But it's hard to say because, to your point, I mean, dude, you might have the best stack in the NFL, in fantasy football. So, yeah, but I love that you showed this. I love that we can actually see what it looks like. For me, you actually helped me solve a problem. I'm not drafting a quarterback until super late in these types of leagues. And we actually are in a league to where it is a 12-man, 3-receiver, 1 flex type of style, full PPR. So for me, makes it even easier.
Yeah, just looking at it, I could have had DK Metcalf or Michael Pittman, which I would have taken over Diggs, actually.
Would you?
Yeah, I would.
What
I would
about
take
Waddle?
DK or Michael Pittman. You know, Waddle, he's just a guy I don't typically draft a lot of.
Yeah.
You know, the Tua Tyreek is, it's gold. The running backs, gold.
Yep.
Waddle seems to be the guy who misses out if somebody has to miss out. So yeah, I mean, if I'm anchoring my team, DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr., those guys are alphas.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle's not an alpha in my mind. So if I'm looking at having that and I want that star on my team, Michael Pittman Jr.
Go to the
and
other
DK
guys.
would have been the picks. Yeah. And actually, had I not taken Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors would have been in that conversation. Super exciting player.
Yeah.
Love him. In a 3-receiver and a flex league,
So good.
would have loved Malik Neighbors on my team. Yeah.
So good.
All right. That is the mock draft. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. I hope this gave you just a little insight. We talk about a few guys here and there, show a little strategy, sadness, genius, whatever it is that we brought with our teams. But it's all a learning process, guys. Do mock drafts. Watch mock draft episode. It's going to help you. It's going to help you know where guys are, so you'll know where you can wait for certain guys. It'll tell you just like this. If you take a quarterback in the 3rd round, what are you sacrificing?
Yeah.
So pay attention to these drafts, guys. Frankie, what else do we have coming up next week, buddy?
Guys, in the next weeks, we got coming up a couple would you rathers. We're going to start diving into specific instances to where when you are staring at a couple guys in a particular round, or if you are staring at a couple different tiers, who is that guy that you should be choosing over the other and why? So don't miss out. This is only going to aid to those particular mock drafts that Johnny mentioned as we continue to get you prepared for your mock drafts and your real drafts. John, we're 3 weeks away.
Let's go, baby. We got news coming for you too. Camp and preseason, we're right in it now. We are in the preseason. So we'll have some news coming up for you for every episode here, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you all next week. May the fantasy gods smile upon you.